You arrive not by choice. Your ankles ache, your wrists bleed, your ribs press tight against your skin, every breath scrapes. Salt still clings to your wounds from weeks at sea. Your legs barely hold your weight when they drag you off the boat, but you stand. Because standing means less pain than falling. The port is louder than anything you've ever heard, not from music, not from violence, just the sound of eyes, thousands of them, watching you. Not like a man, it's like something pulled from a fable, a beast, a weapon, a warning. You can feel it in their silence, fear and fascination, braided together like a rope. You do not know their language, but you know how they look at you. One calls you Daikokuten. You don't know what it means. Later you'll learn it's a god of war, a deity made of muscle and ink. They are not calling you sacred, they are calling you useful. Behind you, the Jesuits whisper among themselves. They try to shield you with robes and crosses, but they do not protect you. They present you, display you. Father Valignano steps forward like a showman in a market square, explaining that you are strong, loyal, and obedient. You have been baptized, you know your place. You nod when he tells you to. Because you were trained to nod, long before this voyage, long before the salt and the whip, long before your name was pressed into silence, you were trained to survive. They march you through the city streets, Kyoto, Sakai. Each time the faces change, but the voices remain the same, gasping, pointing, bows that feel like mockery. Children reach out to touch your skin and run away shrieking. Men laughing, uncertain whether you're a man or a demon. The first time someone throws rice at your feet, you think it's food. You kneel. They laugh harder. One day, they bring you to a place of stone and paper walls, a garden that smells like rain and old blood. You're told to kneel. You do. Not from reverence, but because your legs have stopped listening to you. And then he walks in, Oda Nobunaga. His steps make no sound. His eyes are black as lacquer. His voice is flat. He circles you once, says nothing. Then he orders you stripped, not because he doubts your strength, because he doubts your skin. They bring buckets of water, scrub you with brushes, scrape your flesh raw. Nobunaga watches, arms folded. He waits to see if the colour changes, if the blackness runs off like ink. When it doesn't, he nods once. "You are real," he says. The room exhales. Then he laughs. He does not ask for your name. He gives you a sword instead. It is a test, a joke, a leash. You're not told to speak. You're told to lift it. So you do. The room goes quiet again, and for a moment, they believe you might be more than a man. But you know better. You know what you are. You're property in silk, a body in a strange land, a myth built from scars, a life held together by commands and silence, and the silence is starting to spread inside you. You are not a man in this room. You're the question no one knows how to ask. Oda Nobunaga watches you the way men watch eclipses, staring long enough to go blind. His court gathers around you like moths around a fire, their fans half lowered, mouths slightly open. They say nothing, but their silence asks everything. Are you real? Are you cursed? Are you dangerous? Are you useful? You stand still. You were trained to. A servant hands Nobunaga a damp cloth. He steps forward, slowly, like a hunter, and presses it to your neck. His hand is cold. The cloth rubs hard, slow, once, twice. He leans closer, checks the cloth. Still black, not paint, not ash, not disguise. He steps back, and then he laughs. It is not cruel. It is not kind. It is the sound of someone discovering something rare, something valuable and utterly his. "You are real," he says, then louder. "Stronger than 10 men. Skin of ink, brought by God to serve." You don't respond. You don't know if you're allowed to, but you lower your eyes just enough to show obedience, just high enough to show awareness. The court erupts. Applause. gasps. Men bow. Women hide their smiles behind their sleeves. The room is a performance now, and you are the centerpiece. And Nobunaga is not done. He orders you to lift a man, one of his generals. You do. He orders you to break a spear over your thigh. You do. He orders you to shout. And when your voice echoes through the chamber like thunder, they call it divine. They dress you in ceremonial robes, let you hold a katana, paint your body with white chalk and declare you a warrior of heaven. It feels like honor, but it is not. It is a ritual of control, the old game of praise used to bind the neck, because Nobunaga doesn't care what you want. He cares what you represent. An object of mystery, a living token of foreign power, a beast they can parade through court to show how wide his reach has become. You're not being honoured, you're being wielded, and you feel it, behind the silk, beneath the applause, the way your muscles burn from hours of stillness, the way the guards smile too long when they pass you in the hall, the way Nobunaga never once asks you what you remember of home, because that's not part of the show. You eat only what is handed to you. You sleep when allowed. You speak when ordered. But Nobunaga keeps you close. He brings you to war councils, lets you stand behind him like a statue with eyes. He smiles when you bow. He smiles when others bow to you. He tells his men you are a gift from the gods. But behind his eyes there's something else. Possession. You're his proof that he has no equal. Not even among foreigners, not even among myths. And when he nods at you from across the courtyard, when he tosses you a blade with a grin and calls you Yasuke, you catch it. Because you are what they need you to be. And because you still believe that obedience might one day become belonging. But in this place, even loyalty is another kind of silence, and you're learning to live with it. You are given a sword before you are given a voice. No ceremony, no chant. Just metal in your hand and a man shouting in your ear to strike harder. You don't ask why, you don't ask at all. The blade is heavy, but you hold it steady. You've trained your body to obey long before you arrived here. But here, obedience wears a different mask. They call it honor. You learn quickly, this is a land where silence is discipline, pain is proof, and blood is the price of belonging. So you bleed. In the dirt, in the courtyard, in the rain. Training begins before sunrise and ends long after the moon rises. You're taught to bow before your opponent, but never hesitate to maim him. You're taught how to polish a blade so well it reflects your fear at you. You're not asked if you've killed before, because here killing is not a question, it is a language. Your name, Yasuke, begins to echo beyond the castle. Nobunaga orders your appearance at public duels. He bets on you, laughs when you win, laughs harder when you bleed and do not cry out. You're a warrior now, but not like them. Your armor shines, but your chamber is cold. The other samurai drink together. You sleep alone. They bow out of fear. They speak behind fans. No one touches your shoulder. No one asks your story. They admire you the way they admire fire. Beautiful, dangerous, not to be held. Still, Nobunaga keeps testing you. He calls you to his side during parades, hands you a spear and orders you to walk barefoot across stone. He tells you to kneel during storm chants and not flinch. He watches your face, not for weakness, but for proof. That you are loyal, that you are his. And that's when you understand. This is not about strength. It's not about respect. This is about intimacy as control. The way he stands too close. The way his voice softens when he calls you friend. The way he praises you publicly but never privately. The way he says you are one of them, but never invites you to speak. You are his reflection. Dark, obedient, spectacular. And in every test, every battle, every humiliation disguised as honor, you learn the most important truth of all. Loyalty, here, is not something earned. It is something demanded, at the blade's edge, in silence, with a smile. And you give it. Not because you believe, but because there is nowhere left to go. They bow when you enter, but only when Nobunaga is watching. They call you brother in arms, but their smiles don't reach their eyes. They joke about your strength. They whisper about your smell. They act amazed that you can speak, amazed that you can bleed, surprised that you can kneel and rise like any other man. They say you're a samurai now, but you sleep outside. The chamber you're given has no screen, no fire pit. It's near the stables, where the smell of sweat and manure masks the scent of your own decay. No servant brings you tea, no poet writes of your valour, and though you polish your sword each night, you know it will never truly be yours. You wear silk robes in parades, but they itch, not from the fabric, but from what they represent. A costume. A second skin was sewn for performance. You march beneath banners, nod as musicians play, and bow when Nobunaga lifts his hand. And when it's over, the robes are taken from you, cleaned, folded, stored in a box that is not yours to open. At the banquet, you sit near the back. Nobunaga raises a toast and names you a loyal warrior. The others clap, but your cup is half filled. Your bowl arrives last. You eat from the floor. No one says it aloud, but it hangs in the room like smoke. You are not one of them. You are decoration, muscle, myth. They ask you to touch your hair, ask if your skin feels hot in summer, laugh when you misunderstand their jokes. Sometimes they ask where you're from, but never what you lost. And you smile, you nod, you bow, because you've learned the rules. Praise is just a polite version of mockery. Attention is just another kind of control. Flattery is a leash wrapped in silk. And freedom is not real. Not here. Not when every gesture is watched. Every bite of food was measured. Every breath an audition for permission. You carry a blade. But not your own name. You were given one. Yasuke. It sounds foreign in your mouth. Detached. Clean. As if it was never part of your blood. You say it anyway. Because saying it feels better than saying nothing. But at night, when the wind is quiet and the garden is empty, you whisper your birth name into your hands. Just once. Just to remember who you were before they dressed you in silk and called it honour. And for a moment, your skin feels like yours again. It ends in fire. You wake to screams, steel against steel, the sound of sandals on stone. Then the smell hits. Smoke and betrayal thicken your throat. The temple is burning. You don't ask why. You don't stop to dress. You run. Past the guards, already dead. Past the paper doors torn open by blades. Past the shrine rooms crumbling inward. You find Nobunaga barefoot in his inner chamber, blood already pooling beneath him. He does not look surprised. He looks ready. The betrayal comes from inside. Akechi Mitsuhide, one of his own. A general turned traitor. The garrison is gone. The gates are sealed. Honnoji is no longer a temple. It is a tomb. Nobunaga sees you and nods once. You should go, he says, but you don't. You draw your blade and stand by the door. He doesn't argue. Not this time. Not when death is so close he can smell it. He asks only for one thing. Silence. Then he kneels, straightens his robes, draws the short blade from the lacquered box beside his desk. His eyes are calm. His breath was steady. You look away only once, but you hear everything. The gasp, the steel, the wet sound of skin parting. Then his final breath, low and short like a prayer unfinished. You help end it, because you are a samurai, because you are his, because no one else would. Then you rise, blood on your hands, your knees, your face, not yours. His, still warm. The fires are spreading. The traitor's men are inside now. You fight through the halls with what's left of the guard. 3 men, maybe 4. Smoke blinds you. Bodies fall. You keep moving. You kill because it's all you know now. But your steps are heavy. Not from wounds, from grief. Because he is gone. And without him, what are you? Not Japanese, not noble, not safe, You escape the burning temple just before the roof collapses. The flames rise behind you, like a second sun blooming in reverse. You're not caught that night, but you're not free. The next day you are found, alone, blood-stained, weaponless. You kneel again. But this time, no one bows back. You're not a samurai anymore. Your master is dead. Your station died with him. You say nothing when Mitsui's men surround you. One calls you a demon. Another calls you a joke. A priest tries to intervene. You're too numb to care. They take your sword. They do not take your name, because none of them ever bothered to learn it. They don't call you samurai anymore. They call you beast. Not to your face. They don't have the courage. But you hear it when they speak over you, not to you. When they poke at your ribs with the blunt ends of spears. When they laugh at your silence. When they wonder aloud what you are, not who, what. You kneel in chains. Again. Akechi Mitsuhide soldiers keep you alive, but only just. Not out of mercy, not out of interest. Just long enough to be seen, long enough to be paraded, long enough to remind others what happens to loyalty when it outlives its usefulness. Your sword is gone, your robes taken. Even the name, Yasuke, vanishes from their mouths. They bind your hands, shave your head, lock you in a cell beside a pig stall. The stench is unbearable, but it covers the bruises. You tell yourself that's a mercy. The Jesuits do not come. You served them once, before the warlord, before the rituals, before the fire. You were baptized under their hand, called brother in Christ, praised for your discipline, paraded as a symbol of God's reach. But now, they do not speak your name. They do not write about your fall. They say nothing, because saying something would mean admitting what you were. Not a miracle, not a myth, just a man. And men can be broken. The court doesn't help you either. Nobunaga's old allies melt into shadows. No one wants to be associated with a foreigner who outlived his master. You were a spectacle once. Now you are inconvenienced. You don't know how long you are held. You lose track of days. You don't speak. There is no one to listen. They beat you sometimes. Not for information, not for rebellion. Just to remind you that you're still here. Some say you're sold again, back to Jesuit hands, back into chains. Others say you're sent south, hidden and silenced and branded under a different name, placed far from memory, far from power. You don't resist, because resistance would mean there's still something left to protect. But the silence, that's what hurts, not the blows, not the chains, not the hunger, the silence. Because you gave everything, obedience, blood, breath. And now you are nothing. No title, no voice, no home. Just a foreign body they all want to forget. And so they do. Then the record ends. No grave, no ceremony, no final words, just silence. The scribes move on. The scrolls turn their ink elsewhere. You vanish between the lines of history like dust swept behind a shrine. Some say you were returned to the Jesuits, given back like a borrowed object. A curiosity is no longer needed. Others say you died nameless, in a ditch, in a monastery, in some corner of Japan where no one spoke your language and no one cared enough to ask. But no one knows, because no one wanted to know. Your body may have survived, but your story did not. They erased you not with knives, but with forgetting, a gentler weapon, a slower death. You had walked beside emperors and held swords in firelit courts, killed for loyalty, bowed for praise, laughed when told you were brother to gods, and now you're a rumour, a line in a letter, a footnote in a monk's journal, a whisper in battle reports too ashamed to say your name. Not because you failed, but because your existence disrupted the story they wanted to tell. A black man, armoured in silk, a foreigner who held a samurai's blade, a warrior who proved strength wasn't born from bloodlines. They couldn't explain you, so they didn't. You were too much to honour, too strange to fit, too loyal to blame, too dangerous to remember, and still, You remember, even if no one else does. You remember what it felt like to stand on that parade ground, eyes fixed forward, back straight, sword drawn, while thousands cheered, not for you, but for what they thought you represented. You remember the fire at Honoji, the blood on your palms, and the way Nobunaga's last breath slipped between your fingers like smoke. You remember the silence afterwards, the silence that never ended, because loyalty, you learned, doesn't guarantee legacy. Sometimes it guarantees only absence, and that's the part they never wrote down. Not how you lived, but how you were forgotten. Not how you died, but how you were made to disappear. They say the samurai lived by honor. They recite the words like scripture: loyalty, courage, obedience, and death before disgrace. But those words were never written for you. You learned a different truth. That honor is the name they give to obedience, when it comes from the right body, spoken in the right tongue, sworn to the right bloodline. You carried their swords, bowed at their altars, spilled your blood for their causes, and still they never saw you as one of them, because your skin told a different story, because your name came from outside their borders, because your silence, however perfect, was still not enough to cleanse you of being foreign. They called you loyal. But loyalty, you learned, is another word for ownership, when it serves power. You were loyal the night Nobunaga died. You were loyal when his killers took you in chains. You were loyal even when no one remembered to write your name. But loyalty didn't protect you. It isolated you. They admired your strength, but only because they thought it could be bent. They admired your silence, but only because they mistook it for surrender. They admired your loyalty, but only because they never intended to reciprocate. And when you broke, when the blade was taken, when the silence collapsed in on itself, they didn't call you samurai. They called you a problem, called you a curse, called you nothing. So now, when they tell stories of honor, you watch from the shadow between lines. You listen as they praise the warriors who fell in clean, remembered battles, who died with names etched into scrolls and stones, who left sons to inherit their blades and poems to carve their myths. But you left no sons, no shrine, no myth, only questions. A man with a blade who shouldn't have had one. A servant too loyal to be forgotten, but too different to be remembered. A warrior with no war, and still no one calls you a coward, because even now they can't find the word to define you. You were not born to kneel. You were made to, shaped, trained, starved into it. But even in your silence there was truth. Even in your disappearance there was resistance, because you lived, because you outlasted them. Every name they tried to give you, every story they tried to bury you inside, because your presence, however brief, was a crack in the armour of their perfection. And now, they tell stories of noble samurai, but behind every tale there is a shadow, a warrior with dark skin, unbowed, unclaimed, still watching.